I mean, I've seen a lot of different people, across the board, different personalities that make up a good therapist. Because there's all different types of people in the world, right? So you'll often hear, especially for adolescents, it's hard to connect. It's hard to sometimes find somebody that you connect with. So, I don't think there's like one type of person that makes a good therapist, because there's like so many different people, and there's a different person for everyone based on you as a person. But I do think there are certain qualities that are really helpful. I think just being flexible. You have to be flexible to be in this job. No day is the same, and you could go from helping somebody who's struggling to organize their stuff 1 minute at 9 o'clock, and at 9:30 you're doing a suicide assessment, or you're talking to somebody who's had some sexual trauma or something heavier. So just like being able to sort of flow through your day, the flexibility is huge. And I think another really important thing is to have your own ducks in a row, so to speak. Right. And that's not to say that therapists are perfect by any means, because nobody is, and we're certainly not. But I think to be able to have done work on yourself and to just know, because you go through things and you hear so many things, and it might trigger you or it might provoke a certain response. And in order to really be, a good sounding board for that person, you almost need to take a minute to deal with like how you're reacting to it, so that you're a neutral response to that person. Do you know what I mean? There's a part sometimes in a healthy way that you need to be able to disconnect.
Right.
That's not to say that I'm not emotionally, like, I don't have an emotional response to what people are telling me, or I don't care deeply, because I do. Mm-hmm. But as for your own mental health, you have to be able to, in a healthy way, like I said, disconnect from sometimes what you're hearing. So I think that's another really big quality that is important to possess. I think I haven't really come up against it recently, but I think when I first started, or even just like being in the field, a lot of preconceived notions were, I go to therapy because I'm looking for answers. I want my therapist to tell me, do I go direction A or do I go direction B? And that's not what it is, right? It is supportive, and it is having somebody empathize with you, validate you, challenge you, to really think and find that path for yourself. I think that sometimes it is people, they're kind of like stuck at a certain point in their life, or, in a bad relationship or at a bad job, or, they could be in that sort of way.
Yeah.
I think people also look to therapy to help deal, to help cope, right? So in a sense, I guess you could say that's looking for answers, but, if they're experiencing grief or trauma or, anything significant like that, just looking for ways to be able to cope better. Yeah, and then, other people are continually just trying to manage, right? Manage their anxiety, manage their suicidal thoughts, manage their depression. So, I think a lot of it is just looking for ways. I think people go into therapy because they want to feel validated in how they're feeling. Like, it's okay for me to still be grieving the loss of, a parent or a sibling a year later or something like that. Or it's still okay for me to feel, traumatized by this thing that happened to me 10 years ago. Like, I think that's a lot of it too. People go into therapy to feel validated, but I also think a lot of it is just like, how do I manage? Like, how do I get through my day-to-day with my anxiety, with my depression, with these intrusive thoughts I'm having?
Yeah.
I mean, I look from it from the point of view of whatever you're feeling, those are your emotions. I can't tell you that they're right or wrong, I use it with, like, my 4-year-old all the way up to the students that I see, like, if you, I'm trying to think of something silly. Like, somebody took your seat in class and you're upset about it, I might think that's ridiculous because you're 17 and you should be, like, okay, move on, find a different seat. But I always come from the point of view of, it doesn't matter what I think. You're coming to me, you're upset about this, so I'm meeting you where you are. And they're your emotions. Like, I can't tell you that your emotions are right or wrong. Right. It's how you feel. So, so I think just sitting with that, I think, as a therapist, you have to meet everybody, whoever's in front of you, where they are. And just saying, that's okay. I understand that you're, upset about this, and I can see that that's hard for you. Yeah. And I sometimes will say that, you have every right to feel how you feel. This is your experience. Mm-hmm. This is not my experience. This is not, mom or dad's experience. This is your experience, and it's okay that you feel this way.
Yeah.
I said something similar to that to a student a few weeks ago, and she just paused, and she was like, wow, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
She was like, it actually makes, she's like, I kind of thought, because sometimes you get so caught up in these situations and you feel like, for lack of a better word, crazy. Like, is it okay? Am I supposed to be feeling like this? Or I should be handling this situation better. So just to have somebody sometimes say, like, no, that's fine. If this is how you're experiencing it, that's okay. And then let's work on, helping you move forward from here, sure. Mm-hmm. But your emotions are your emotions, and and your experience is your experience. I don't think anybody, can take that away from you. I think it's just to connect. And, I've had a lot of different, I guess, I don't want to say populations that I've worked. I mean, I have worked with a lot of different populations, but a lot of different types of kids too, outside of the high school. I worked in other settings when I worked with adolescents. And it's just like connection. Like, you can tell, I can probably tell within 30 seconds if somebody in front of me is going to be receptive to just sort of like, open up and sort of go into everything, or if they're going to take some time warming up. And it's just like, what are you doing over spring break? Or I really like your shirt, or, just little things like that. Just being a human, really, at the end of the day, mm-hmm. And connecting with them. I never push kids to, like, come in and, okay, by session 3, you should be, divulging all your deep, dark secrets. Like, you were referred for depression. Let's start talking about it. If you want to talk about, baseball or basketball or whatever for the next 8 weeks, then by all means, like, at some point, you do have to slowly start to, like, integrate ways. But like I said, you have to meet whoever's in front of you where they are. Right. And if they're not ready, then they're not ready. It's awesome. And I was just saying this, we were interviewing an intern the other day, and I said, having seniors this year and just having been previously in another position, but at Central, like, I've seen a lot of students since freshman year that are graduating this year and last year too. Mm-hmm. And I think the best thing for me, not so much a good session. I mean, it's awesome when kids sort of have like an aha moment in a session, but to be able to see that growth is just really motivating, and it kind of helps you to continue to chug along. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the really cool things. And I think after a bad session, or just like just a hard day, or a really intense day, it definitely leaves you lingering a little bit at work. We're really, really lucky in that there's 4 SACs, and we're all very close. So we're really able to sort of just like decompress with each other afterwards, which is really helpful. And like I mentioned before, that disconnect, like, you have to shut it off when you go home. Yeah. I used to work in a psychiatric hospital, and just like, you have the most intense days, and you just have to be able to block out and just sort of shut it off. And I feel like it makes me sound a little robotic to say that, right? Unempathetic, but that's not the case. But you just, like, I always explain it in a way sometimes the students are struggling to disconnect from whatever. But it's like you have, in your mind, you have a shelf, right? And you have boxes, they're all labeled, like family, school, work, whatever. It's like I put the work stuff in the work box, and I close the closet, and I go home. You know, of course there are times and situations that I'm still thinking about it when I go home, but that's when that self-care comes in as counselors, as therapists. Like, you need to be able, you need to be able to take care of yourself. Like, if you really are struggling to then disconnect, you need to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, while I was in my, like, grad school, and then, like, probably my first job after, was sometimes not having the support of, like, supervisors.
Right.
And so that's really hard when you're dealing with, like, a really intense population. At the time, I was dealing with adults who were in the day program. And, you know, they had all been in state hospitals before, like, very severely mentally ill, and legal issues and substance abuse, heavy substance abuse. And there was, like, not a lot of support. So that's something that's really difficult as a therapist, is when you're trying to work with a client or work with a student, whomever, and you don't have that support from supervisors or from the agency itself. You know, I had a client at one time who was using, like, getting high outside in the parking lot, and my supervisor said, you know, you can't kick him out. And I was like, but no, like, he's almost OD'd twice. I've had to call the ambulance twice. Like, he's not appropriate for this program.
Yeah.
And so that's really hard. That's really, really hard and really, really frustrating. And that's, you know, part of the reason why I left. Like, you have to be in a place too that morally, in a way, lines up with who you are. And so I'd say that's a really hard thing. And I wouldn't stop until you get to that point, like, until you feel comfortable, like, okay, you know, like, here at school I feel supported by my coworkers, my supervisor, admin, and so that's really important.
Yeah.